Number one, would you say hello to Cheryl, please?
We're going to have a great time together, Cheryl.
15 seriously messed up facts about serial killers that will horrify you. Ted Bundy, Rodney Alcala, Anthony Sowell, Albert Fish, Richard Trenton Chase, Leonarda Cianciulli, John Wayne Gacy, Robert Hansen, Kenneth Bianchi. From 1939 to 1940, Leonarda Cianciulli from Montella in southern Italy killed 3 middle-aged women, turning one of them into bars of soap, which she distributed amongst her friends. Her flesh was fat and white, Cianciulli wrote in her memoir. When it had melted, I added a bottle of cologne, and after a long time on the boil, I was able to make some of the most acceptable creamy soap. I gave bars to neighbors and acquaintances. Cleveland-based restaurant Ray's Sausage spent nearly $30,000 trying to combat a foul odor they were accused of emitting into the neighborhood. It was later discovered that the odor was actually coming from their next-door neighbor Anthony Sowell, a serial killer who was keeping his victims' decomposing bodies. Sowell was sentenced to death for the murder of 11 women. Serial killer Rodney Alcala, who was suspected of having killed up to 130 people according to some reports, appeared on The Dating Game and was chosen as the winning bachelor. Alcala is currently on death row, guilty of murdering 5 people in California and 2 in New York. His final death count is currently unknown.
What's wrong with morning, afternoon?
Well, they're okay, but nighttime's when it really gets good.
In Pakistan, a judge convicted serial killer Javed Iqbal of murdering 100 children. The killer was sentenced to be strangled with an iron chain, chopped into pieces, and dissolved in acid in front of the victim's parents. However, Iqbal would be found dead in his cell under mysterious circumstances. Richard Trenton Chase, who drank the blood and cannibalized the remains of his victims, would only enter victims' houses that had unlocked doors. Chase killed 6 people in a span of a month in the late 70s. He told detectives that he took locked doors as a sign that he was not welcome. He died in 1980 in his cell due to an overdose of prescription drugs. Vlado Tedeschi, a Macedonian journalist, was arrested on suspicion of being a serial killer. The journalist had written several articles that included details the police had not made public, and that only the killer would have known. His DNA matched the semen that was found on the victims. Tedeschi was found dead in his cell, his head dunked into a bucket of water. Police said it seemed like a suicide. In Anchorage, Alaska, Robert Hansen was arrested and convicted of killing 17 women in a 12-year span through the 70s and 80s. He would often abduct and release his victims, only to hunt them down in the Alaskan wilderness with a rifle. Hansen died on August 21st, 2014, while still in prison. John Wayne Gacy, the so-called killer clown, actually met First Lady Rosalind Carter in 1978, 6 years after he began murdering people. Gacy killed 33 teenage boys and young men throughout the 70s. In 1970, Ted Bundy saved a 3.5-year-old toddler from drowning. No one had actually seen the toddler wander away except for Bundy, who sprang into action to save the child. Bundy confessed to 30 homicides throughout the 70s, but the actual number of victims might be much higher. He died on the electric chair on January 24th, 1989. Kenneth Bianchi, one half of the Hillside Strangler duo who raped and murdered 10 women, applied for a job with the LAPD and actually participated in some ride-alongs. In these ride-alongs, the topic of conversation would usually be the Hillside Strangler murders. H.H. Holmes, considered America's first serial killer, would sell his victims' skeletons to medical schools. Holmes is infamous for his murder castle, a hotel he constructed with the specific purpose of killing his guests. After his wife left him for another man, Albert Fish tacked needles into his groin and abdomen, whacked himself with a nail-studded paddle, and inserted a piece of cloth drenched in lighter fluid into his anus, which he then set on fire. Fish was the cannibalist who inspired the character of Hannibal Lecter.
The census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
In the 1920s and 30s, he was suspected of killing and eating 15 children. Henry Lucas once refused to join his partner Otis Toole in eating a human leg that he filleted and barbecued. His reason? I don't like barbecue sauce. Toole died in prison in 1996 due to cirrhosis. Lucas died while in prison in 2001 due to heart failure. Danny Rolling, the Gainesville Ripper, would pose his victims' corpses to accentuate the shock value. He left the head of one of his victims on a bookshelf while her body was left in a seated position. Rolling was sentenced to death for the murders of 5 college students in Gainesville, Florida in 1990. He was executed on October 25th, 2006. And finally, Robert Willie Pickton would grind up his victims in a wood chipper and feed them to his pigs. He confessed to killing 49 women, wanting to kill one more so he could even the tally at 50.
One more, maybe 50. That's what I was talking about.
He's currently serving a life sentence in Canada.